Someone owns the outcome, but nobody owns the decisions underneath it. That is one of the quiet ways teams get stuck. On paper, everything looks clear. Someone owns the launch, someone owns the revenue target, someone owns the customer experience, someone owns the project result, so the team looks accountable. But then the work starts moving, and the questions begin. Can we change the scope? Can we move the timeline? Can we say no to this customer request? Can we reassign people? Can we spend the extra money? Can we make the trade-off, or do we need to bring it back? And suddenly, the person who owns the outcome is not actually sure what they're allowed to decide. That is the gap. Outcome ownership is not the same thing as decision authority. And when those two things are not connected, accountability starts to break down. Not because people are avoiding ownership, often it's the opposite. They feel responsible. They care about the result. They want to move, but they keep hitting decisions they don't feel authorized to make. So what happens? They escalate. They wait. They ask for another meeting. They check with the founder. They loop in more people. They slow down, not because they lack urgency, but because the system has made the next decision unclear. That is structural drag. It's not always loud. It doesn't always look like conflict. Sometimes it looks like carefulness. Sometimes it looks like collaboration. Sometimes it looks like people being thoughtful before they act. But underneath, the work is carrying an authority gap, and that gap gets expensive. Because every unclear decision has to travel somewhere. It travels back to the founder. It travels into a leadership meeting. It travels into Slack. It travels into a side conversation. It travels into the operator's lab. And each time it travels, the work slows down. This is why simply saying you own the outcome is not enough. It may sound empowering, but if the person doesn't know what they can decide along the way, they don't really own the outcome. They own the pressure, and that's a very different thing. A useful way to spot this is to listen for repeated permission seeking. When the same person keeps asking for approval on the same category of decision, don't jump straight to they need to be more confident. Maybe, but maybe the authority was never made clear. Maybe they own delivery but not scope. Maybe they own the customer relationship but not pricing exceptions. Maybe they own the timeline but not resourcing. Maybe they own the metric but not the trade-offs that affect the metric. That's where leadership has to get more specific. Not more controlling, more specific. For any important priority, there are a few questions worth answering before the work gets too far along. First, who owns the outcome? That's the easy one. Most teams can answer it. Second, what decision does that person own without coming back? And that is where things start to get more interesting. Can they change the timeline? Can they reduce scope? Can they say no to new requests? Can they move people around? Can they make customer-specific exceptions? Can they spend within a certain limit? Third, what decisions still need escalation? There's nothing wrong with escalation. Some calls should come back, but the team needs to know which ones. If everything can be escalated, then nothing is really owned. Fourth, what trade-offs are already accepted? This matters because a lot of teams assign accountability without naming the cost. They say, you own this launch, but they don't say whether speed beats completeness. They say, you own this customer outcome, but they don't say whether protecting the relationship beats protecting margin. They say you own this target, but they don't say what can be deprioritized to hit it. Then the owner has to carry the outcome and guess the trade-off. That's not clean accountability. That is ambiguity with a name attached to it. So if a priority keeps slowing down, ask yourself, does someone own the outcome but not the call? Does someone carry responsibility without authority? Are decisions being escalated because people are unclear or because they genuinely need leadership input? And where does the work keep waiting for permission? Those questions will usually tell you where the drag is, because the issue may not be effort, it may not be communication, it may not even be accountability. It may be that the business assigned the outcome, but never assigned the decision rights underneath it. And until that changes, the person responsible for the result will keep carrying pressure they can't fully act on. That is precisely the kind of pattern the Hidden Drag Diagnostic is built to surface. It helps you see where decisions, ownership, structure, and alignment are slowing down the business. You'll find the link in the description. And if your leadership team keeps assigning outcomes without clarifying authority, connect with me. I help founder-led teams find the hidden drag and close the gaps that keep important work from moving cleanly. If this was useful, subscribe for more practical thinking on decision velocity, hidden drag, and how founder-led teams get unstuck. Be sure to share it with someone who owns the outcome but still has to ask for permission for every meaningful call. And be sure to follow along for more. My name is Warren Winowski. Thanks for watching.